see that often, that people go tapping into the energy world or the mindful world, the mindful energy world with me, if they go combining the things, and then they are not really approaching it from the point of compassion, seeing how the world is changing, not only from the knowledge perspective, but from the energy and the sentience, the feeling perspective. And it's a lot, it's so hard to take. So we have to bring in this space of it's okay the way it is. And I am doing what I can be doing, which often is way less than you need to do. And practices every day.
Welcome to the Cosmic Love Antenna Podcast. This podcast is meant to encourage you to connect within so you can share your light with the world. And now, here's your host, Harrison Meagher.
Welcome, beautiful beings, to another episode of the Cosmic Love Antenna. You found yourself on a weekly, episodic, spiritual, mystical trip into the deep dives of all that you are, so you could pull back the layers restricting health, alignment, and love, and share that frequency of love to all the people that are important, the people that are empowering and lighting up your world. Today, you've found yourself on an episode where we're going to go deeply into all things mystical and spiritual here today. And I'm going to have the pleasure to introduce my beautiful guest here in a second. But if you've found your way to the Cosmic Love Antenna and you are new here, I want to greet you with some love and some light. Welcome to the show. If you are a returning guest, I feel you, I see you. Thank you for coming back to this platform, to this space. Remember that you can support this family and this broadcast by sharing this episode out with some friends that you feel can connect and resonate with what we're going to dive deeply into today. If you're looking to add a bit of feedback of your resonance and some of the things you got from this show, remember, you can always go to Apple and Spotify and leave your reviews over there. And that really helps the broadcast get to more souls that might need this kind of conversation. As I get started now, I want to introduce the beautiful being, the beautiful heart I get to have a chat with today on this show. Djali Vasala is a powerful being that works with the clairvoyant spiritual sense. She is a clairvoyant master healer. She's a mindful energy coach. And just to be honest, she is a very loving soul that I've had the pleasure to already connect to in many ways. And today, what we're going to talk about is all things clairvoyance. What is it? How do we break it down? How do we start to ignite it? How does it take us on our healing path of love and light? What does trauma have to do with it? Surprise, surprise, here on the show. And so much more. With all of that, my beautiful friend, welcome to the Cosmic Love Antenna.
Hello.
How are you feeling?
Thank you so much for... Good. Well, it's very early in the morning here, here in Prague, the Czech Republic. It's 7 a.m. I don't usually start business until about 11, even if I wake up now. So
well, it's an interesting choice in regards to what you do for a living. Because I know in regards to my spiritual senses, they're most active in the morning. Do you find, is that different for you?
Yeah, it's actually, well, my mornings have been changing on the path. I do have to say that. I used to have mornings when, and I never knew why it was. It was hard for me to get up. It was hard for me to kind of get started in this world. And it almost felt like I didn't want to get out of the sleeping world. And once I was in the waking world, I didn't want to kind of leave again. And only with the clairvoyant studies, I realized that was me actually working on the astral at night and not having jobs finished. And I literally would be waking up with like kind of, oh, I still need to finish this and I need to finish that. And I can't wake up now. Wait a second. So that's been changing with the, with kind of the awareness of that. And my morning have become way more exciting, way more like, oh, okay, I'm kind of like, yeah, I'm pretty much done here. I'll come back tonight. And now I can wake up into this earth world.
It's funny. I like how you call it the earth world. I think it's interesting how we develop as we age, right? As our spiritual being, I think it knows what it's doing, but the human being has to settle down a little bit and start to incorporate all the power that it wants to share. So I think it's funny. I think it's a symptom of what you're describing. Djali, we were just speaking before this chat about you had a clairvoyant activation in your dreams last night, and I would like to hear about it as we get into this chat, and then we'll talk a little bit more about you, and we'll get into some questions. So, what came up last night?
Well, so I don't do loads of dream work. I just do like dream awareness and lucid dreaming. I know you do.
just lucid dreaming, just casually.
Yeah, just casually. What literally is that? Because I don't plan it. I'm aware that I'm dreaming, and it's because I've always been quite conscious. So when I wake up, I have the usual dreams fade away. I don't really, know about them. And even if I get a message in the middle of the night, it may kind of just pop in the morning. I note it down. I don't work with it anymore. But this one was a little different. It was no significant message, but it felt very human, astral world connecting. So in the dream, I was advising someone on a relationship, as a clairvoyant often does. It's kind of the, money, relationships, moving, work. That's what people often come to you with. And I'm telling this lady, besides some other usual stuff, you will know him by his feet. Then I wake up, and sometimes I go to pee in the middle of the night. So I go to the bathroom, and I kind of knew I had to be careful in the bathroom. I was super sleepy, kind of you half awake. And then I bump into my dog's feet. He was sitting by the toilet. He doesn't usually do that. He is somewhere else. And I was like, oh my God, this is like a message for me about me knowing that. Yeah.
Well, let me, because I'm curious here, and then we'll get into some things. But because I'm really curious, what do feet represent to you? When you take away that context, what do they represent to you?
Grounding, on the one hand, which most of us actually lack of, and we have to intensively and consciously work with it. Within the system I work with, we have special grounding with a grounding cord. And then also connection, because you are connected to the earth, but thanks to the feet and the legs, where if you're lucky enough you have them, I like to not take things for granted and be aware also I'm lucky enough to have feet and legs. They approximate you to the other person. So in that dream, that leg of the girl was actually reaching out to, like, she was lying down and she was reaching out with a leg somewhere else.
So we'll see. I love it. Thank you for sharing, my friend. We'll see where this conversation goes, and we'll see if any feet and grounding symbols come up. And it's just to add to what you're saying about as we start to activate our spiritual being, and we're going to talk about the clairvoyant sense today. I want people to hear what you said very quickly there. That grounding piece and grounding into the physical 3D realm as we start to expand our spiritual heights. Right. It's so important, right? Because just like we can feel like we don't have enough of our spiritual activation, and there's this anxiety that sort of comes up, that can often occur. And I'm wondering maybe your perspective on this. That can often occur on the flip side when we sort of go off into the clouds and start all the activations, but then we don't have that tether, that ground to the earth, and we can sort of get a bit lost. Do you notice that?
Yeah, totally. That's something I work with a lot with the people who already are working with energy.
Yeah.
And it's usually because they got here, they descended on earth in a body as light workers.
Yes.
And light workers usually come here from high vibrations, and it's hard for them to be on the earth plane. So once they start tapping back into the energy and the high vibrating world, they don't really want to be here. So they don't feel like grounding into the earth. And that's one of the things I do. I do help those that are a little more already working with that, because I have three kinds of clients: the new, the working with, and the professionals. I help them with getting here and processing why it's so hard to be here.
Have you a question for you, my friend, because it's just bubbling up for me. And I want to share this with you, and then also share this with the listeners, because you listeners have probably, I haven't talked about this too much. In my exploration into the chakra system, I think we all maybe understand the root chakra and the base chakra, and then maybe even the chakras on our feet, right? Connection to the earth. have you ever heard of the Earth Heart chakra? Have you have any understanding or experience with this energy center that is a part of us, but is also intrinsically connected to the heart of Mother Earth? Has that come into your awareness at all?
I've never really heard of the name as such, but I do get loads of connections to the earth in my readings and coaching work. Because what I do, so as part of the integration into the earth plane and us being happy here and being aware of like why we are here, I go reading people's space and how they connect it. And often for those who are ready, the connection to the earth and kind of the center of it comes way stronger. And the grounding cord we work with in the teaching I teach is different in these people.
Yeah. I love it. It's a sort of slight tangent, not really, but a slight tangent to what we're talking about here today. But just for people listening, tuning in, that cord that Djali's talking about and that Earth Heart chakra, I find it really powerful to visualize standing on the earth and then the earth opening and this beautiful heart center in that space, and then your light from you connecting down into the light of Mother Earth. And that can often be what is needed to start taking that step to that grounded nature. So
I love that. Yeah, that's really nice, because the earth, we don't realize, is a living creature. And us plugging into it mindfully, being aware also its energy is changing every day, is something that makes us way more aligned. And what I like to do also every day, and what I teach my students and clients, is to match the vibration of the earth every day. Because sometimes you may be vibrating higher, sometimes you may be vibrating lower, but you want to match it. You want to match the vibration of the earth so that the two of you can cooperate and keep making this world easier and more beautiful.
I think another way, let's just keep flowing with this topic because it's so beautiful. And then I want to ask you a clairvoyant question. But that energy exchange happens because I feel there's a soul contract, right? And this is, I think a lot of people overlook this. The earth is a soul, right? The earth has a soul, much like we have a soul, and much like, Djali and I probably have a soul contract. And, if you're listening, you probably have soul contracts with family members and friends, and there's an energy exchange in that contract. It's the same thing with the earth. So, just going back to these spiritual senses and what we're talking about today with the clairvoyance, remember the earth in her contract with you can provide assistance, right? Can provide guidance, but you have to ask, you have to lean in. Do you resonate with that, my friend?
Oh, totally. You have to surrender to it, and that's a big thing in what I do teach, because the earth plane otherwise is a scary place, especially for those who have descended from higher vibrations. But even for the rest of them, I have people who have descended from regular vibration. They still come very scared, and it's only when you can start trusting and being amused. We really like using the amusement energy in what I teach, but you not having it naturally, and then going like, oh wow, I'm actually literally grounded by the gravity. That's the first reason why I'm loved and taken care of here. I have been fed into this body. Imagine like how you little being you were, and throughout the years you have been nourished to have all the bones, all the flesh, all the organs usually functioning. And that's because the earth is supporting us. And most of us have houses with like running water that we can drink or we can bring into the house. We probably have at least blankets, if not heating as well. And all of that is the providing of the earth for us to be able to sustain whatever contract we have to fulfill here.
Mm. Yeah, this topic we could take into many different angles, but we'll pause it there. I want to shift now into, because with this foundation set, let us speak now about clairvoyance, right? And with this understanding that we are this beautiful spiritual being having a human experience here on this earth. Djali, I think a good place to start with this is for people that are new to this specific spiritual sense. And I've done for everyone tuning in, if you go back at the time of releasing this episode, I've done a couple episodes now on the clair senses and this topic at large. But today I really want to hone in on the clairvoyant sense. So, Djali, how would you define clairvoyance, just for someone that's new to it?
So clairvoyance is heightened intuition. That's how I like to describe it. A very strong intuition. It could be as well. And maybe we should also define what intuition is. People sometimes don't realize. So intuition is inner guidance, as if advice without you having to think too hard, which we like to do as humans, and is often futile. And we can navigate through thinking hard or analyzing easily, but we can't really get guidance. So it's a bit like when you have a GPS in the car and the car takes you somewhere, that would be your analysis, but asking for a restaurant to go to, a good one, would be your intuition. Mm-hmm. That would be the guidance. So when you tap into,
And just to jump in there, I would also add, it's also like it's almost a download, a synonymous word that we could use from it. It's not just the guidance, but it's also like it's downloaded guidance from something that maybe we could perceive that's outside of us, but ultimately is deep within us, wanting to be heard. So keep going.
I think we have two of those, actually. I think we have one that's deep within us, that is from the experience and the human life. That's what most people think they can tap into. Mm-hmm. And then we have the second intuition that is part of our experience as a soul, as a higher being. And then all the lifetimes, the energy field that we can tap into through realizing that we are more than the body. There is way more of us than can fit into the body. So clairvoyance is being able to realize that you don't actually need to be able to label it. Lots of the students we have at the energy school I work with don't really know what they're exactly tapping into until a few lessons in, because it's loads happening when you start plugging into it.
So question with this then, that bubbles up for me, and usually I like tapping into the audience. If I'm having it, then most likely the audience is having it. How would you distinguish between intuition and clairvoyance now? So what link does clairvoyance, as an example here, have to the seeing, right? Because from my experience, a big part of clairvoyance is not just the intuitive download and expression, but it's also connected to the mind, the third eye, and the seeing beyond
the pineal gland. So I would say maybe it's a bit like an analog phone and a smartphone. So your intuition that you are kind of aware of that's possible to have would be your analog phone, and then once you are tapping into your clairvoyance, then that's your smartphone. You're able to actually see the messages, you're able to tap into a dictionary with other languages, you're able to tap into the internet, other platforms like WhatsApp. So that would be the difference there.
I love it. It's expansive. What have you noticed? So I'll give an example here, and I want to get your perspective on this. What have you noticed? How do people express their clairvoyance? So for me, for example, I will get my usual intuitive hit, right? And usually comes from within or connected to that energetic field, like you're saying. But then my clairvoyance will express often when my eyes are closed. It hasn't expressed in eyes open yet, but when my eyes are closed, I usually see images, or I see something beyond the physical in my mind's eye. How do you express your clairvoyance? And two, how have you noticed it come up in other people?
So how I express it is well, okay. First of all, it's different for everyone. That's what people don't realize when they learn it with me or with us at the energy school I work at. They often like to have like one default form that they are supposed to be seeing, and that's because they're coming from the analyzing mind. Yeah, kind of like, give me what I'm supposed to see, give me the boundaries, what I'm supposed to see, so that actually it feels like it's right. Again, there's a whole, right or wrong, which in the spiritual, the energy world actually doesn't exist. But I would say for me, it's a little different from what I have learned from those loads of readings and coachings and the classes, because I intuitively, and this wasn't clairvoyantly because I didn't see stuff, it just happened to me, started overlaying other people's body when reading onto my neutral set body. So I go reading people's energy body and their chakras onto my body because it feels very easy for me to do. And that's what I start with because it's close to me. I can kind of tap into the chakras and the aura quite easily.
And you see that with your eyes open?
And I see that with my eyes closed. I can do it with my eyes open now too. It's easier with my eyes closed because we learn it with eyes open too, in case you want to do it in settings that are not really convenient for your eyes closed, such as maybe more regular coaching, or maybe you're doing a group healing session, maybe you're giving a lecture, you want to give a bunch of people a reading or healing, and you don't really want to tap into the trance that it's kind of harder to get out of. So I first see, if I focus in a session, it's where I start with. I first see the energy body and the chakras, and then I tap into the message from the higher self that in the teaching I follow shows as a rose, and that's where loads of people want to see like a perfect rose, but it's not that. It's all kinds of shapes and colors, nuance, exactly. And then I go, every time I see something, I go asking the energy field and my healing master, which is a major spirit guide that we have in the teaching I follow, what it is, what it means, what it is, what it means, what is it good for. And I also can already see any polluted, any unbeneficial energy. And we go moving it. And that's why what I do also includes healing. There is more healing from other perspectives, but already seeing any energy that looks off. And again, you intuitively or claircognizantly know that the energy is not flowing right. So then we go moving it. Does that answer your question?
It does. It does. You answered it. And in more so, my friend, there was a beautiful little roller coaster there of insights, and I hope people really received that. So a couple of things bubbled up, just in case people didn't pick it up. Claircognizance, it's clear knowing, right? When you know something before you even realize what it is, right? So just make sure people got that one. But I want to go back to something you said, and then I want to jump to another question here that's again bubbling up for me. You said that this has unique expression, right? It has unique expression inside of us. And this is so important to see for everyone. And we can understand this from a diet perspective, right? We can understand that maybe from a physical level, a lot of us, the things that we put in our body reacts, we are biochemically individualized based off a physical level. In my opinion, and from what you're saying, it's the same thing from our spiritual lens, right? Yes, we all have these beautiful gifts and these things to tap into. And that's what I'm going to ask you next here. But the expression of them expresses through that biochemical individualized lens. And I think it's what makes us so beautiful at the end of the day. Do you resonate with that, my friend?
Totally, yeah. But it's a little confusing for the people tapping into it, right? Because first of all, we are told that what we can't see doesn't exist, which would mean that electricity doesn't exist, internet doesn't exist. But we kind of want to know that, skin is skin and eyes are supposed to be here and two of them and all that. But I do agree. And it's part of the surrender to the whole earth life, us being in a body and the process that we go, okay, it can just show up in any shape and form. And my job is kind of passing the message message neutrally, in a way that is the easiest for the person I'm passing it to. A bit like an answering machine, if you want, rather than you having to analyze it.
Yeah. If you take anything away from this podcast today, beautiful audience, it's that surrender word. It's never going to be more important than when you're on this kind of experience. Djali, I want to ask you a question here now, and I think this is probably something that a lot of people have, myself included. Can everyone access this kind of gift? And I know there are different perspectives on this, especially within the spiritual community, and even people I've had on this show have different perspectives, and each is welcome. But I'm wondering, what's your opinion? Can I, Harrison, right? Let's not talk about past life. Let's just keep it simple and talk about in this lifetime. How can I access this clairvoyant gift, even if I'm unaware and maybe don't have any experience of it?
Totally. Everybody can, especially you, Harrison.
Especially me.
Then, yeah, especially you being such an aware soul. And then it comes to your readiness. Okay, within the spiritual world, there is no time and space, but for us humans, there is time and space. So when there is the right time and space, when your soul contracts are vibrating at the vibrations that clairvoyance for you is, then you are ready to tap into it. Now, I do need to be honest that lots of the people that go studying clairvoyance with me and with the energy school I work with, they don't go using it professionally. It's kind of part for them of a life when they go reopening to the dimensions they came from. What I like to call it is seeing behind a corner. You don't realize what is behind a corner, and then you realize, oh my God, I actually can see behind a corner, and there are so many corners. I can see so many things, and they integrate the human life and the astral life of the energy body here on Earth through being able to tap into this heightened intuition. Often they just go through series with us of practicing, getting their healing, which is the integration, basically realizing that's what they're able to do, what beings they are, and they may not practice further besides some of the meditations and doing readings with us, practicing.
Do you? I think I already got the hit. I just got a download as I was about to ask the question, but I want to hear you say it for people listening. Would you classify the clairvoyance skill characteristic sense as a muscle, meaning that the more that you use it, obviously the more that it strengthens, but the less that you use it, does it entropy? Does it decrease in its ability to express itself?
Totally. Yeah. I would totally say that. And also it actually connects, or is possible for us to project it and work it through the pineal gland, which is an organ in the center of our brain that is responsible for hormonal release as well, which, by the way, once you start working with energy in this way, it means your hormones get regulated easier. Your sleep, your melatonin gets released easier. Your serotonin, your happy hormone, gets released easier. And even if you don't go into full clairvoyance, but you do say energy clearings with me, where I do use the clairvoyant tools, you also get to regulate your pineal gland. The pineal gland is it's not a muscle, but it works that way.
And that's so important, what you just said. All of it was, but specifically that the hormonal connection, right? This shows the connection here between the mental, spiritual, physical being that we are, right? We're not just this isolated mechanistic thing that does physical things one day and spiritual things the other day. No, they connect to each other, right? And just for people listening that have tuned into my chakra episodes, right? This is why the energy centers can be so powerful to tune in, because in my experience, they are the gateways to these different passages and elements of what we are. So that pineal space that you were just talking about, if we connect into the energy centers of the third eye and the crown, then we're not just regulating our energy senses and our energy characteristic in those areas, but we're also regulating our physical, our hormonal spaces. What's your, this is just a question I have. I often see the hormones as the bridge between the physical and the emotional and the spiritual. Have you noticed a correlation there in your work, my friend?
Yeah, totally. Well, they go helping you navigate where you want to be as a human.
Yeah.
The silly thing, or not as easy thing about it, is the human itself is not as smart as the higher self we are, as the original essence we have come into this world with. And whatever you tell the human, or whatever your mind kind of goes thinking and dictating, that's what the human will do, and the hormones will kind of go with that. Yeah. So if you go thinking this is a horrible world, this is a horrible world, so there'll be loads of cortisol, there'll be loads of adrenaline being released into the body as stress hormones, and you'll be running around, let alone if you go drinking loads of coffee or toxifying the body otherwise, you'll be running around going like, okay, this is a horrible world, this is a really horrible world.
Yeah. Well, and then the flip side of that is if you drop into a deep state of meditation and open your heart space and connect to your divine presence or your higher self, right? That in many ways is an essence of love. Then that connection and that space that you then open will then express itself through the physical body, right? That's why we can see a connection between acts of gratitude, right? When we are in gratitude and we feel that love, right, that then expresses itself hormonally through the physical being, right?
Totally. That's why people who meditate are way calmer, are way easier helping people. My mom says I've changed, like I grew up as a traumatized kid, and part of it was being bitchy, to be honest. And my mom is a wonderful, wonderful person, but sometimes she's very lively. So sometimes she's very confused, or not very, she's just confused, kind of restless, and forgets what she was doing. And I used to be so impatient about it. I don't say I'm perfect now, but it's about 80% better. And it's thanks to this work that has made me calm down with her, feel the love, feel the surrender with. The most important thing is that she is here, not that she's looking for her keys, really.
Yeah. It's if you needed another reason to meditate, that's the reason right there. Djali, let's keep it going here. And I have a question I want to pose you on the clairvoyance piece. If other than spending time with you and working with your beautiful soul, how could someone that's looking to activate their clairvoyant sense and start bringing this beautiful expression of their soul into this 3D form, what are some steps people can take, some practices we can start to implement to open this ability?
So I will, at the end of the show and in the show notes, I will share a couple exercises that I have right now as a freebie, where you can do it yourself. And one of them is a very basic one where you'll be asking your intuition yes or no, because most of us are not even able to believe that we can do that. And the other one is going to be you tapping into your chakra system and then asking the chakra system to show you where you are carrying any unbeneficial or polluted, basically not yours energy, which all of us pick up every day, and then to release it. Again, you are able to do this on your own, maybe not fully, but if you every day tap into, okay, so I do have chakras here, this is how it looks to me when I close my eyes. Maybe you don't see much at first, but if you set the intention that that's what you are doing, then you will start seeing things. And even if you don't see much, because many of us don't have the voyance, the seeing as strong, but you may have the knowing, the cognizance that it is happening. And that will start making you aware of you being an energy being as part of the energy field that has descended into a body, and it will be heightening your intuition and your clairvoyance, your seeing. Does it make sense?
It makes beautiful sense. And I'll just add, because you went there as you started to define some of the other clairs, I would also, don't put limitations on yourself. So obviously we're speaking about the clairvoyance here today. I'll lean into that if you feel called. But when you're doing that same exercise, maybe you'll smell something, right? Maybe you'll hear maybe you'll hear something. One of my other clairsenses that's most active right now is my clairsentience. So you can maybe feel along your skin, right, the clairtangiency, all these things. And I would go back to listen to some of the episodes I've done on these, but I think a big part of the spiritual path, especially when the topic we're talking about here today, is being open for the unexpected, right? So go in and have the intention of the clairvoyance, but allow yourself to get other representations that might be waiting, right?
Totally. And please, please, please don't see them as anything right or wrong. That's really important when you're tapping into this world, to realize that the right or wrong is something we have constructed on the earth plane that is helping us navigate. Maybe you can bring this no right or wrong into your everyday life as well. Maybe when you see like a homeless person, you're thinking, oh my God, so bad for him. And how about you go thinking it's neutral? It may be a sad human story, but how about we look at it as neutral? So the same should go into you tapping into the energy world with your clairs, and be amused. Be amused by the mind coming up with like, oh my God, I'm hearing things. Maybe I'm crazy. Oh my God, I'm feeling my neighbor. I will actually also put in the exercise neutrality, so that you don't feel like you're tapping into other people easily, but it can still happen. If it does, amuse yourself and just have a look at what you see and let it go. That is kind of the strange thing, and it was definitely for me at the beginning, to see it, kind of observe it and let it go again. There is often no more work unless you want to be reading for someone, especially not analyzing. The moment you catch yourself analyzing, you are not tapping into the clair, you're tapping into the human mind, which is not beneficial.
Yeah.
Ego, exactly.
The awe piece and the being curious, it reminds me, I'm sure you're familiar with this, my friend, the Hawkins scale of consciousness, right? And when we start to have emotions and feelings, and maybe we unlock some suppressed trauma and pain during this experience, it's very important that if we have guilt and shame or anger start to come up, that we allow it to move, but we sit in that observation state, either in the neutral space, or we can take it to a different kind of higher frequency of awe, of love, of gratitude. So we're now shifting the frequency overall, right? Rather than getting stuck in the deeper states, right, that can hold that resistance.
Correct. We call it in the teaching I work with not sitting in the picture.
Yeah.
So, right. So sitting in the picture is that you see the anger and you go into it and you're like, oh my God, I'm so angry. I'm so angry. What do I do about this? I'm so angry. How about you just feel where the anger is, let it be there, kind of let it consolidate and go like, okay, well, now I'm angry. Yeah, it may take half an hour, 3 days, whatever, but you kind of looking at it from the detach, and detach is not really you not being present. Detach is just observing the seer, the seeing entity.
If anything, it's you being more present, right? Because you're connecting to the presence, right? You're connecting to the space that you are, that's holding the emotion, right? That's holding the aspect of you that might be going through a certain thing. So speaking of that, let's go there next. Let's talk about, and you talked about this before, but briefly, you were mentioning the different pieces of us that can hold on to stories. You said not to be good or bad. And often I've noticed in my my spiritual journey of the awakening of my gifts that trauma is playing a role, and especially not just trauma in this lifetime, but trauma in past lifetimes is playing a role in the awakening of certain gifts, especially the clairvoyance. So, Djali, I'm wondering, from your opinion, what is the role of trauma in this sort of clairvoyance journey that we take?
I would say it's exactly that. It's you. It's kind of, I'm not sure we chose it too well, because for many of us, it's hard to understand. The guy who runs the energy school I work for, Dr. Lawrence Cielo, he likes to say that the light workers may not have been too smart, this, coming to the earth plane from higher vibrations, because the experience for us is often so hard that we go like, what the heck is this? I just want to escape. And then, you may end up actually taking drugs and intoxicating yourself other way. But yeah, I see it in all the people who come to me who are super aware, or either, it's funny because you can be aware and not be aware of being aware. Does it make sense?
Yeah, very much so. Very much so.
So you're a sensitive being who can help people themselves, can tap into things, but you don't know that's happening just yet. And then often the people come to me and I see the traumas they've come with, and they don't even mention them. It could be things that I go looking into their body and I'm like, there is something up with your foot. And I have this wonderful client, I'm going to see her today actually in Central America. And I was like, you have a magical foot. And then she goes telling me, we have the genetical illness in my body that goes storing in feet. And so it was her father. And then I go seeing is her previous lifetimes that they had feet problems. We are back to the feet, right?
I told you it'd come.
You did. Aren't you psychic? So yeah, we actually go through the traumas in their lives, realizing that there is a gift in us, and sometimes it takes a bit of detective work to be able to realize what a trauma actually was, because sometimes we know we are traumatized, or I see it, the clients are traumatized, we don't know what from, maybe we don't call it trauma, and also where it was in the previous life, what it's supposed to be serving with.
So I'll say a couple things to this. Thank you for sharing that, my friend. And I liked the foot reference there. It was beautiful. It came around. I want people to sit into this feeling and this element of, when we start to look at past life trauma, or even just trauma in this life, you don't need to do all of it all at once, right? You just need to take one step at a time, right? In my experience, and it sounds like in your experience too, my friend, that even if you are working with someone, that person is not going to give you everything. They're going to give the thing that they see in that moment, because you don't need to see everything, right? I truly believe, and this I think relates to the spiritual journey at large, but specifically the sort of trauma healing lens, that we're only ever given what we're ready for. So even if we do have multiple lives of things that we need to move through, we're probably not ready for all of it in one hit anyway, right? So I say this to people listening to, release any anxiety or tension that, I probably have so much. Yeah, you probably do have a lot, but we all do, and we don't need to do it all. You just need to do the thing that's present for you right now. But I want to go back to what you said about people that are aware that they're not aware that they're aware. And then when they become aware, it sort of becomes, what is going on? And I want to get your thoughts on this, because I think this is I'm in this right now. I'm in this and within my spiritual journey. And I'm wondering what tips you would give. And let me just describe it very quickly. I've noticed that awareness of our inner world. So for me, for example, I can't go into a group setting now without, noticing all the things, seeing, feeling, some of my other senses are activating, but not just seeing in the external world, seeing all the things playing out with all the different people, but also seeing how I'm reacting to that internally, right? For example, how my inner child is reacting, is feeling rejected based off what that person said, or how my shadow of abandonment is reacting to how that person is saying. So my question for you, my friend, is for people like me that are awakening to their gifts and their beautiful sensitivities, how do we start integrating ourselves with the world again?
Well, I will, yeah, switch into my coaching seat here for a second because I can totally feel your pain. And that is something that happens a lot to the people who come to me. It's often they hear me somewhere talking about energy or I'm teaching energy, and then they know either that I have my traumatic story as well, and I help people through the hard times when they actually tap into the world. And it almost feels for a while that the world is more difficult than before and it's kind of more complicated. So we have a few tools that you can apply yourself, and then depending on how easy or uneasy it is, and you need to be honest with yourself, then it's good to get a guide if it still feels messy for a certain period of time that you know is unbearable for you, that you know is not healthy. A bit like when you have a cavity and you're thinking, okay, this is how much time I give it, and then I need to go to a dentist. Or you're not sure if it's a cavity, maybe it's just an aching tooth. I should probably say that. So the first thing that I can that you need to have when you start working with these gifts, or when you start seeing, feeling things, yeah, exactly, is protections. So within the teaching I work with, we have something that's called a protection rose. That's an imaginary rose, but it's not imaginary really in the energy world, but for us humans it is, that we put out on the outside of our aura, nice and grounded. We put our picture in it so that it's facing outside, and it works as a decoy of your energy field. So it kind of goes faking, this is Djali, and it's catching the energy of others. So that's one of the protection tools. And we have a couple more that I would guide you through if you come to me. And then also neutrality. We learn how to set our three lower chakras to neutrality. All you need to do is really ask them to set themselves to neutrality. And it's in situations where you know that you are going to be more sensitive, or you are already getting sensitive, and you can tell the lower three chakras, okay, guys, let's pause here for a second. This is how I feel. How about we set ourselves to neutrality? And then the third tool I like using is downloading the divine love through your crown chakra. Now, this often requires a little more openness to us being energy beings, to the fact that we are, to the fact that we do have a crown chakra, to the fact that the energy field is actually divine love. And if we go tapping into it, we can get this calm and surrender easier. So that's kind of the protection tools that we have there, including the neutrality. And the other thing is compassion.
The big one.
So we do. Yes, it's a big one. And I see that often, that people go tapping into the energy world or the mindful world, the mindful energy world with me, if they go combining the things. And then they are not really approaching it from the point of compassion. They are approaching it from the point of attaining knowledge only, or kind of fixing themselves. And all of a sudden they are faced with the feelings of their mother more, their neighbor more, seeing how the world is changing, not only from the knowledge perspective, but from the energy and the sentience, the feeling perspective. And it's a lot. It's so hard to take. So we have to bring in this space of, it's okay the way it is. And I am doing what I can be doing, which often is way less than you need to do. And practices every day.
So thank you for those tips, my friend. And I will definitely take a lot of those to heart. And the chakra one specifically, I think I'll have to switch up a little bit. I do a cleanse every morning, but I think it's very important. You've reminded me now to step into that in the moment, right? It's so easy for us to come to our space and our cave and do all the things, but then we forget to do them in the actual experience itself. And I'll just do that later. The compassion piece, I really just want people to land with that, because that hit my heart deepest. And I feel that we judge the judgment, or we shame the shame, or we add more guilt to the guilt, or we add more resistance to the resistance. And you said it perfectly. We are doing the best we can in the moment, right? Once we know better, we do better. And this spiritual evolution and this path, and this is me reminding myself of this as much as I'm sharing this with everyone listening, is not meant to be one where we're constantly doing and working and pushing and struggling, right? This beautiful expression and this journey is meant to be one of expansion and pleasure and joy and love. And that doesn't mean we don't have those other emotions, but we come at it from an unconditional loving space, right? No matter where we are on that spectrum, right? So my friend, I want to take this now to a couple more questions before we finish up. And I'm really grateful for you spending your time with me this morning in your non-energetic hours. I want to ask you now about the quantum of it all. And I know that the quantum field and the quantum perspective plays a part in the work that you do. So let's go there for a little bit, and maybe you can explain to people listening that are maybe have some understanding around quantum theory and the quantum field. How does this wrap into what we've been talking about today with the clairvoyance and these spiritual gifts?
So what I like to think about there is two ways. So one of them is that the whole energy field is like a cloud, and our higher self, the original essence we are, or the soul, if you want to call it, is part of the cloud that decides to come into a body. Now, whilst you are in the body, you are still part of the cloud. And because the cloud doesn't really follow any space or time rules, you can tap into any part of the cloud anytime. You just need to be aware of that. So how energy works is true, at least when we are in the human body, is through us being able to set intention. Like basically your pineal gland, the center of the head, the way you are tuning into thinking is like a driving seat. And once we tell the driving seat, I want to tap into Harrison in Australia, even though I'm 7 hours behind him time-wise, and 5,000 kilometers, 10,000 miles away, I can actually do this. It's completely insane from the human perspective of what we are taught. If you had told me 10 years ago, I would have said, am I going to be high doing this work? How will it work? But then I see it. I have a client in Norway. That's one of the closest ones I have. And I was working on his leg, another foot and leg thing. And and he goes telling me after the session that it felt like after surgery, that there was so much work done on him that it felt like things were moving and it was so sore, and he made the mistake of going for a run after. Now, this wouldn't have been possible if we weren't entangled quantum-wise, and if I hadn't been able to bring his energy to me or me tap into his, because it's all the same, during the session. And the other way I could liken it to is kind of the voodoo doll. So you know how people, right? So how the black magic or the negative energy work, if you want, works with a voodoo doll. So in pranic healing, which is originally where I came from before I started doing this multidimensional clair stuff, you work with 30 centimeters or 1 foot tall imaginary shape of the person you're working with. So that is like the voodoo doll, just not physical, right? And we do good things to the doll.
Only love. It's so empowering, right? It just shows you. Thank you for that beautiful explanation, by the way. It shows us, like, if you're listening and for some reason, and I say some reason because if you've been listening to these shows, you're in this world already. But let's say this is totally new to you. All of this is totally fresh in your awareness. What this piece shows that you're explaining so beautifully is that there is no time and space, right? This is such a cliche spiritual thing to say, but it is so true, right? It is so true that, the first thing that I go to with this is Reiki, right? This is why Reiki, that we can do Reiki energy and Reiki healing, other side of the world. It's because I would encourage people to go listen to some of the episodes I've done on guides and angels and a lot of the connection to entities, right? The place that we go to when we leave this 3D world does not exist in this structured, linear, physical dimension, right? It lives in a space that is timeless and spaceless, and we don't have to wait till we die to get there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's the magical thing. I think that's why we are here as well, to realize that we are multidimensional within, being able to transcend dimensions.
Yes. And let's not only do that now, but let's do that so we can show other people. Right.
Totally.
We hear this term all the time, the new earth, right? Or the 5D shift, or whatever you want to call it, right? This transformation that we're having as a collective. And I think that's a big part of it, right? It's
totally
us very simply realizing our power, right? Realizing what we actually are, right? And we could have a whole other conversation about, all the systems in the world that are designed to take us away from that power. But just listening to this, what we're chatting about today, reminds you of that, right?
Totally, yeah. And it's the whole seeing behind a corner, which to me, I never knew for very long, was that recurrent dream for me. I would be on a hill, yeah. I would be on a hill and I wouldn't see behind a hill. It was actually middle of the hill. And I wanted to see that. I kind of knew that there was something interesting there. And in every one of those recurrent dreams, I go behind the corner of the hill and I realize, wow, there's a whole world here I can tap into. And I go and I make the effort and I go behind the corner and I go into the valley and I realize the valley is evolving. And often we don't do that in our real life. Now, I used to live in Brighton, where there isn't a big city. It's only 100,000 people back in the UK, and it's by the sea. But there's also just 10 minutes by train. There's part of Brighton, it's called Mousecombe, that is like all ugly buildings where poor people live, and apparently loads of them don't go to the sea. Then they don't go behind a 10 minutes away corner. So we do this very often. And this recurrent dream for me was a reminder that we can go behind a corner, not only in the physical world, but also in us realizing we are the beings that can see more dimensions.
Well, and I think I love that dream image. And I think a big part of it too is that ego mind that we're talking about before, right? The ego likes to be in that box, in that safe space of the familiar. And when we start to step out of the familiar, we're like, oh, what are we doing? Let's go back to the thing that we're used to. But we often forget the thing that we're used to doesn't hold the potential and the healing and the expansion that we deserve to tap into, right?
Yeah, there's a kind of comfort zone thing, right?
Yeah. I'm interested to see what the feet brings you. I'm interested to see what this next dreams, these feet, and what it is expanding. And there's going to be a correlation here to another spiritual.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, but it's thanks to you, right? It's because my human knew that I was tapping into this show today, connecting to Harrison. And that's how this very kind of connecting and beyond space and time, because the foot, me feeling my dog's feet came before I came to the bathroom.
Yeah,
so that was thanks to, before, right, exactly, right? So then it was a reminder, there's no time and space, all the feet are connected at the same time and space, thanks to Harrison today.
Let's see if we can put this together here, and then we'll finish up with a couple questions. But the you that experienced the foot in the dream space is also the same you that's experiencing this conversation right now, right? Within the quantum perspective, right? So
that's right. That is right.
So you could say that one of the reasons that maybe that foot was there in the dream space was because we're having this conversation now, right? Even
that's
though
right.
This is technically in the future.
Yeah.
In the space that you interacted with the foot, it didn't see.
It was
the
at the
future.
Same time.
Same time.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. It's the same time. That's what I like tapping into. Yeah.
I hope we didn't break people there.
Yeah.
My friend, I have one more question before we wrap up this podcast. But before I ask you that, I want to give you a bit of space here now to do a couple of things. I want to hear about your work but I want to, with beautiful, gifted people like yourself, I really enjoy. Big part of the cosmic love antenna is really heightening and expressing your gifts. And we've spoken a bit about the clairvoyance today. So I'm wondering if you would feel comfortable sharing a bit of your clairvoyance, whether it's a reading for the listeners, whether it's something that you can connect into, whatever you feel like you want to share.
Yeah, so I have just grounded myself into the tapping into the reading. Once you actually start doing it, it takes a very short time. Often people take it takes a long time. And I have a couple messages I see. So one of them is, so we often do this when I do the classes too. We do like a group reading, if you want. So one of them is about the listeners, that the listeners are actually elevated beings. They are lined around. Now, often this sounds funny because I'm reading this space, lined around with light. I see this kind of like yellow lining around them. So they are kind of like special beings because my regular human doesn't always have a light lining around them, which means when I'm tapping into that, and it's how you get more information when you go kind of asking more, what is this lining around? That means they are protected. They're actually naturally protected. What I'm getting as well through listening to your podcast, they are connecting unknowingly for the most part, but they are enhancing this protection. And let me see, I'm getting like 98% of them have come as light workers onto the earth. I'm also getting about 30% of them do need to work on regular, which is actually a small number, releasing regularly their unbeneficial energy they are picking up. So many of them, 70%, are actually already working on that consciously or unconsciously and successfully. And their main running energy within their human energy space is spiritual awareness. It's a really high spiritual awareness. And it's funny because my human mind, before I tapped into the show, thought that you get, well, aware beings, but not necessarily spiritual beings or light workers. And the other message I get is me seeing you next to, it's like a stream. So I see a stream running behind Harrison. Harrison is standing in front of it. He's big. There is loads of grass. So what the grass is telling me is that you are going through growth and growth periods. In the teaching I follow, growth periods are a beautiful thing, but also quite annoying unless you use tools, energy clearing, or maybe you read when you are able to. So you want to be aware of that you want to let go for about, I'm getting 10 minutes twice a day, which is quite a lot. You want to be sitting and just surrendering to the energy flow that is unbeneficial through the top of your head, very aware of the back of the neck, part of your head in the human body with the energy field is so-called genetic entity, and that needs to be releasing through the back of the neck into the chakric channel in the center of your body, all the way out of your bum, basically, into the earth to get safely and properly disposed of. So that's something you want to do daily, but with amusement and ease, not really, I need to get rid of this. And you are really big with the stream. So what I'm getting is there is loads of you with the ease and flow that is coming into your world that is able to provide, kind of like covering and hugging the world. That's what I see you doing there. Does it make sense?
Mm. It I could see your big smile, my friend. That was beautiful. Yeah, it made perfect sense. I can add in, is there more you want to share?
Is that no? That's well, I do see like this is the scent of divine love, but that is the main message. I could keep going, right, for another 40 minutes if I wanted to, yeah, but that's the main message. The main message is to realize that the people who are listening to are connected, and that they are mostly actually really beneficial beings who already know how to take care of themselves, and that you are right now going into a growth and flow. You're way bigger than what actually you see, and that you need to do a couple of times a day, sit with what needs to go from your genetic entity at the back of your neck to the left of it.
Thank you, my beautiful friend. I received that download, and I want to add a couple of things to this, because I think just that message that you gave to the beautiful audience, it's funny how you came in with that feeling of people wanting to learn and grow and apply these tools. But then the download that you got was all of these beautifully heightened spiritual beings that now are they've done a lot of the work, and now they're receiving a lot of these gifts now. And I want to, for everyone listening, really sit with that, right? Resonate with that, because a lot of us aren't celebrating that fact. A lot of us aren't. And I'm right there with everyone, right? I'm right there with you in the non-celebration. We just want to go to the next thing. So, Djali, I just want to say thank you for that download and the reminder that we've done so much of this beautiful work already. I want to give you a bit of space here now, my beautiful friend, to share more of your offerings, and if people have resonated, how they can get in touch with you and connect a bit deeper.
Sure, anything. So first, my work comes in those energy clearing sessions. That is twice a month. That's a group thing that anyone can sign up for. And the funny thing is, it is 1 p.m. Pacific time, because most of the clients I have are on the Pacific coast, but it's set beyond space and time. So you can do the replay as well. I actually collect the energy for that for 3 days beforehand with my guides. And what it does, it actually taps you into the clairvoyant world passively, whether you are an active clairvoyant or reader or not. And it kind of gets rid of the junk that we pick up, a bit like you could think of it as like we are like light bulbs, and the insect is kind of flying towards it. So we get rid of the insect, we learn about something from a particular topic that I tune into that week. Then I also do monthly workshops on clairvoyant tools, which again, you don't need to be a clairvoyant to do that. So this month we are tapping into our spirit guides and how to work with them easier. It's an hour. These 2 sessions are actually cheapest so that everybody can do them, even if they are doing some other work right now. And then I do every now and then like a deeper course into the tools that kind of I launch sneakily, because I have limited capacity, and I'm always with people on Facebook Messenger so they can ask me questions. I go following up so that the integration is really there, because I often see it's not there, and then the humans are confused. And then I do one-on-ones when I guide people through kind of the difficult periods when they have tapped into the energy world, or maybe the traumas that have come to them, and they want someone like me to look at it from the energy perspective, mindfulness and healing. And then I go also working with people who are already energy workers and they want to make their business more profitable, more functioning. So that's what I do.
And I think all of us could use a bit of a sprinkle of that in our lives.
Totally.
As always, beautiful listeners, if any of that resonated with you, I will put all of Djali's beautiful links, her website, the programs, the courses she mentioned.
The
freebie as well. We mentioned that before. I'll put that in the show notes. So just go on your podcast player and you'll see everything there. My friend, thank you for sharing yourself with me today.
Of course.
It's been nice to connect to your heart. Speaking of that heart, the last final question here I want to throw at you is this space that we've been talking about that we connect to, whether it's in the quantum, whether it's through our clairvoyance, our intuition. I truly believe it is a space of eternal and divine love in many ways. That is why we talk the cosmic love antenna. So I'm wondering, a big part of my journey has been really learning what love actually is in that spiritual form. So in your journey, how do you define that love word?
Love is to me the primary essence. We are connection, ease, surrender, kind of the yumminess of being in the safe space and cloud, being at home all the time with yourself, wherever you are. Yeah.
It's the beautiful divine foundation. I love that.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
I love it. Beautiful souls. Thank you for listening today, Djali. Thank you for joining me again here with this conversation. I hope all of you out there in the podcast world got some guidance, got some love, expanded your beautiful third eye and your voyances today. If you did, remember, you can leave comments, reviews, share this out with someone that might need it. But as always, we love you very much, and we'll catch you next time here on the Cosmic Love Antenna. Bye, everyone. All right, beautiful souls. Before I leave you today, I'm excited to share an announcement and a powerful transformation with you. Starting on January 1st, 2023, I'll be launching a 1-year coaching program one-on-one with me. So if you're looking to move through inner child wounds, ancestral healing, spiritual gifts, overcoming religious trauma, or anything else you hear me speaking about on this podcast, then this program is for you. This is your opportunity to spend a year in my frequency to help you expand one-on-one straight into your nuanced, specialized, and individual needs. This is for you if you're ready, if you feel committed, if that heart is pulling you to the change that you deserve. If you feel like this is you, please message me the word, the comments, the statement, 1 year love on my email or on my social channels, and we'll book your free call to feel in and tune in together to see if we're a good fit for this beautiful transformation. Please be aware I'm only bringing on a certain amount of people for this, so if this is you, please take this advantage before I fill up all my spots. I'm excited if this is the pull that you need, and I'm excited to get in touch and honored to take this journey with you. Sending love, sending light, and I'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you for listening to the Cosmic Love Antenna podcast. We hope you enjoyed. Be sure to follow Harrison on Instagram, Twitter, and Clubhouse at Harrison Meagher. That's Harrison, Meagher.